So we live in a world of abundance now. We've got access to literally millions of different sounds and things we can use to create music with, whether that's built-in MIDI instruments in free software like Garageband, or whether it's using traditional acoustic instruments like guitars, synthesizers, whatever it is. The thing is, we've got access to as much stuff as we could ever possibly need. And you'd think that maybe that would help you be more creative. You know, having access to anything, you can create any sort of style of song. There's no reason why you can't create an absolute masterpiece. But the reality is that having access to literally anything creates the opposite of inspiration a lot of the time, definitely for me. So what I wanted to talk about in this video today was kind of this idea of inspiring creativity by putting some limits on yourself. And I'm going to do that by carrying out a little experiment, something a little bit weird. I'm going to try and create an entire song using just random sounds that I'm going to record from around the house here. I'm going to take my Tascam audio recorder, dictaphone, just go around the house, record one long audio file and just hit things, scrape things, just whatever. Record the cat, who knows what's going to happen. But it'll just be a load of random sounds. I can pull them into Garageband I'm going to use for this, so it's something that you can do completely for free. Anyone can do at home, and we'll see if we can create music from it. At the end, it may not be something released. It may sound terrible, but the whole point of this is it's meant to inspire creativity. It's meant to, you go, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll try and make something from that, and then maybe you'll replace it with something like from a real sample pack or from a real instrument in the end. Who knows? But it's all about getting that creative spark and putting some limitations on yourself, doing something a little bit different. So let's get right into it. Let's go around the house, see what random sounds we can find and collect, and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so that was pretty weird, right? Back in the studio now after a long day of recording random sounds, and I'm going to try and do something with them. Who knows what the hell we've ended up with. So what I've done is I'm in GarageBand here now, and I've just dragged in that raw audio file. So I just recorded all those clips in one long go. So I've just dragged this in, and what I've got to do now is go through and sort it out into some kind of categories so it doesn't drive me completely mad. So I've already gone ahead and created a load of audio tracks on the left here. So you just click the plus sign here and just select audio track. I've just created loads. I mean, you could do this with MIDI, and I will get on to doing some stuff with MIDI later. But for now, I'm just going to arrange them in a load of audio tracks because it's an audio file that I've got. So I've just made some headings of the types of sounds I think I'm going to need to look for. So I've got kick type, claps, things that resemble kind of hi-hats, scrapes, all those kind of things. So I'll just now set about going through this and seeing what I've got. So that first sound was a kind of click. It was that light switch. So I just find in the clip the transients. You can see here at the bottom. Let's get that a little bit more central. So find the transients of that sound. I then just drag this little marker to the start of the sound like that. Right click, click split at playhead, and then move to sort of the end. You want a bit of the tail. You don't want it to just be, you can always shorten it later. Get a full kind of clip of that sound. Drag the marker to the end, and then again click split there, and you've got an individual clip now there, and you can just copy or cut that out of your main track and then paste it onto whichever track you've made which it resembles the most. So I've got clicks down here. So I'll just copy that, just paste that into clicks. And there you go. See what else we've got in here. Yep. Crunchy noise, some jangling of keys. So that kind of thud sound makes me think of a kick. So I'm going to try and capture that. You know, may or may not be suitable, but we'll just add it into the category that it most sounds like for now. It's probably a bit too much going on with that one. So I'm going to go through this entire track now, arrange them into categories, and then try and put those into something that resembles some kind of music. Okay, so I've got my kick now, I've dragged in here, and it sounds okay, but it doesn't really sound quite how I want to sound. It sounds, it's got all the elements that a kick would need, and the kind of transient is there, but it's not quite how I want it. So I've just looped this section, by the way, by just dragging this yellow bar at the top. You can do that in Garageband, just so that you've got, you can just play a whole section without having to copy and paste it all out, even though I have done that. And then what we can do is we can use EQ to manipulate this sound and make it sound a bit more like a kick. So I've clicked on this bar up here, this element here, in Garageband, which brings up the EQ window down here. And if we click on this analyzer button and we press play, we'll be able to see exactly what sound frequencies are playing in this sample. So you can see that it's mainly all around this lower end, which is why it sounds like a kick, and there's some higher end sounds, but what we can do is we can boost and take away certain frequencies to make it sound more how we want it to sound. There's various settings in this EQ. You can use high and low passes. So a high pass filter only lets through higher frequencies. You can just move that, and as you see, it completely changes the sound. There's shelves, but what we want to use is a band pass, which just highlights certain frequency bands within the frequency spectrum. So it goes from 20 hertz right at the bottom, the lowest sound, all the way up to 20 kilohertz at the top, which is the highest frequencies. So I know to get more boom within my kick, I want to just boost slightly between 50 and 100 hertz, and you can change the narrowness of this band using this Q value down here, up and down, to make that narrower or wider. So I'm just going to boost it a little bit around there to make it more boomy, and then I'm going to cut away some of the sort of more crunchy sounds that are kind of around here, and I'm going to keep playing with this until I get the sound that I want. I've created a basic beat now. I want to create some kind of melodic element, and I don't want to just take individual sounds and arrange them, which you could do. It would take a long time. I want to do something a little bit more musical. Take one of those sounds and put it on a MIDI keyboard that I've got right here. You could just add in a piano sound or any of the built-in sounds that we've got over here in the library that comes built into GarageBand. But no, we want to stick to just our random sounds that we made. So I've got this pop sound here, which just sounds like this, as you can hear. And I'm going to take that, I've just selected this area at the top here, so this yellow bar, just selected that clip. I'm then going to share, export song to disk, and then I'm going to select wave file, because that's very important, and just save it somewhere where it's easy to find. So I'll just save it on the desktop. We'll just call that pop sound 1, save it there, and then that should be available for us to use. Now we need to create a MIDI instrument track, or a software instrument track as it's called in GarageBand. So just right click on any of these tracks here and then just select new software instrument track. Now by default it comes up with classic electric piano, which just sounds like a piano. If we actually, your standard piano, but we want to get in our pop sound. So what we're going to do here, the little trick, click on that, click on up here the smart controls, and then on track at the bottom, you want to go to your plugins area. Where it says ePiano, you want to click on the little down arrow, go to AU Instruments, Apple, AU Sampler, and then a stereo track. Within there, it'll bring up this little keyboard, and it'll just give you a sort of sine wave as default. But the cool thing is we can add in our own sound instead of that sine wave. So if you click on the little plus sign at the bottom here, that's not right, sorry. If you click on the little cog arrow at the bottom here and click add samples, then you'll see in here that, well, straight away it's taking me to my desktop. And here is that pop sound one that I've just created. I'm going to double click on that and it brings it in here now. And if you play, you'll hear there's that pop sound, but it's also already still got still unfortunately got the sine wave, but we can just get rid of that by clicking on it and clicking on the minus sign here. And then we should have a piano where that pop sound, I can play it across the piano like this. There you go. So let's try playing something over the top. So I want this to come in. At the moment, I've got my beat comes in. I've used the kettle as a riser. Everything drops out and then it kicks in. I think I'm going to use this this pop sound as a kind of marimba kind of sound. It kind of reminds me of a glockenspiel or something. Let's just try something like that. Something like that. That sounds good to me. I mean, it's in MIDI, so you can, if you want to if you hit some bum notes in there, just go in. If they're not on time, just drag them around, get them on. You can, if you're not familiar with MIDI, this is called a piano roll. You can quantize. So click this cue, and it'll make all the notes jump, as you saw there, onto the right note. If you choose for 132 note, 164, it'll move them slightly less. If you go down to a half, it'll move them to the nearest half beat. So depending on how off you were, change this around. Be aware if you may get some problems. I tend to stick on 1/16th note. It tends to be about how far you are off if you're playing fairly accurately. And then you'll have some melodic element to work with. And if you decide that pop sound wasn't really what you want, then you could drag in another WAV file into your sampler that I showed you before and just mess around with it that way. So try to find some other melodic elements, messing around. I found that razor sound, the shaver that I had, just sounds something like this on its own. So it's kind of interesting. But when you put that into the sampler, the MIDI sampler, then you can make some pretty cool sounds with it. So yeah, I quite like that. So that's about it for this video. Would you call it a song? I don't know. I'm going to carry on messing around. I'll play the final version of whatever it is I come up with right after this. But I hope that's just giving you some inspiration. It shows you that you can create something that sounds kind of like a song, just using random things you find around, using free software, Garageband, without having to use any plugins or even pay for anything. I didn't even use any free plugins. I just literally used what was in Garageband there and managed to make some kind of musical piece. So yeah, if you're struggling with creativity, want to try something that's going to get you thinking a little bit outside the box, put some limits on yourself, do something like this, do something a bit random. It might not end up being released, but you'll be amazed what kind of thoughts it can trigger, what other things it can inspire. So give it a go. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think this song was actually all right, or I think it was terrible, just let me know. And yeah, if you like this video for more random stuff like this, using free software and helping you make music at home, then please do give the video a like and subscribe to the channel.